Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast, where we celebrate individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism is a sponsor of our episode today. Warm temps and fresh seafood make the Alabama Gulf Coast the perfect beach destination for your family vacation, couples getaway, outdoor adventure, meetings, conferences, and conventions. Our guest today is Suzanne Downing. Suzanne is the publications editor for the Outdoor Writers Association of America. Suzanne, it's a pleasure to finally have you on the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast with me. Thank you.
Yeah, great to be here, Howard.
Fantastic. I'm really appreciative of the great folks at Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism came again, and my friend Easton, because they said, well, you know something, if you're going to do some podcast episodes with us, you have to interview Suzanne. And I thought, well, you know something, I'm finally going to get her on the show. This is fantastic. And tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into outdoor adventure and writing, and then we'll dive more into the work that you were doing down in Alabama. So talk to us about.
Sure. I've always enjoyed camping, the outdoors, and I had the great opportunity to attend the University of Montana. They have an environmental science journalism program, and I've told stories since I was a little girl, love the outdoors. I did not know that you could intertwine the two. So once I figured that out, Howard, it was history. I was outdoors and I was storytelling, learning about our environment, and I was drawn to the Outdoor Writers Association of America right after grad school in 2019.
Fantastic. Now, I have to ask, did you grow up in Montana or did you grow up somewhere else?
I grew up in a tiny farm town of Indiana and moved to Montana about 7.5 years ago. On a whim, my husband. Yep.
Okay. And what was, when you were in this tiny farm town in Indiana, had you had this outdoor adventure bug? Had you had family to take you hunting, fishing? How'd you get really enthused about the outdoor space?
Well, as much as I could do in Indiana, I did. I did grow up camping and we did a lot of fishing. We mostly went away from Indiana down to Kentucky to explore more terrain. So yeah, I've always had dirt under my fingernails as a kid, always wanted to explore, always played with rocks, always wanted to be by water. Yeah, it's definitely in my bones.
Okay. And as far as, so you got married, you moved to Montana. That's where you went to graduate school?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And how did you decide on that particular program? Because first of all, Montana, I haven't been there yet, but I'm hoping that someday I will go a little farther north than where we were in Casper. But how did you decide, well, Montana is where it's going to be?
We drove through here. I was working in marketing at the time, and my husband and I drove through here with an exhibit on our way to a show. And we both looked at each other in the truck and said, what is this place? We saw the mountains. It was just a feeling, Howard. We felt this feeling in both of us. He grew up a street away from me. So we were both these small town Indiana folk. We just knew we had to go to Montana. When we moved, I had no idea they had an environmental science journalism program. When I started enjoying our shared spaces, national parks, went to Glacier, went to Yellowstone, I was in awe that these are our shared spaces. I had no idea that was my land. It's your land. And I started understanding more about conservation and ecology and how much work goes in the background. I love behind the scenes. And the background people working to make this all happen is something I don't hear much about. And I wanted to experience that and tell people and show people what goes on behind the scenes to make this land so beautiful and conserve it.
I can appreciate what you've just shared because I grew up in very urban like settings in Southeast Michigan. So we had Detroit, Oakland County. We had state parks, county parks. Occasionally we'd go up farther north, and we have obviously had bodies of water all around Michigan, but I never truly appreciated all of the activities that could be enjoyed being outdoors. And I have to admit too, if not for the Outdoor Writers Association of America, which is how I met you, and becoming a member, I mean, the topics like conservation, stewardship, access, exploration had never been on my radar. And I love the fact it's on the radar now, and we get to have conversations like you and I are having today. So let's circle back. So you got your graduate degree. Tell us a little bit more about that degree and some of the projects you were working on.
Sure. I love little critters and I love big critters. So I primarily focused in school on more of the wildlife conservation. I had to do the law classes, the journalism law, and the more serious things. But for me, when it came down to wildlife conservation, I was very intrigued with that. And the program I was embedded into a conservation ecology lab with a great professor that taught me a lot about the language, a lot about the studies of animals. For example, I worked on a story with a ornithologist, which is someone that studies birds. And he was
I knew
doing,
that, by the way. I knew
yeah, good
that.
job. Yeah. And he was working on the American Prairie Reserve and he was banding curlews and long-billed curlews and doing a lot of research. So I got to do a deep dive, and the program really gave me an opportunity to understand that, again, behind the scenes of what goes into conserving our wildlife. Wildlife just doesn't automatically thrive with the human impacts that are happening. And the program allowed me to focus on what I was interested in.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did that interest then translate to communicating to people like me who are it wasn't even on our radar, or we are a novice, or something we have knowledge and we want to grow? How does that study and the work that you were doing begin to translate in creating, expanding people's awareness?
Yeah, that's a great question, Howard. So, with Outdoor Writers Association of America, which I refer to as OWAA, that's the beauty of communication is we work with outdoor communicators and they're doing the groundwork for us communicating those types of things. And say you're in Yellowstone and you're in awe of the elk that walks past your car or the bison that you're seeing grazing. That's all because somebody behind the scenes is working to make sure those animals are thriving. And improving your craft, helping translate the science to the common folk is really difficult. There's a lot of big words, like even ornithology is a big word. So you have to be able to communicate like you would to your brother or your sister or your mom or your dad. And that's really where we come in is helping other outdoor communicators. I want to help people improve their craft from what I've learned. And I do still freelance on the side, which
Mhm.
is super fun.
Yeah.
And I just want to translate that to people and help them as well.
Okay. When you first began your journey with the OWAA, what was that like?
It was a lot of work to learn the systems and to take over an entire publication right out of grad school. I did not do a lot of editing other than peer editing. So it was a big learning curve, just learning the publication. We publish a magazine quarterly, and I'm the sole publisher of that. Yeah, it was cool though, because I got to meet with people that with jobs that I didn't even know existed. All these amazing travel writers, like living out of their vans, getting paid to write about their travels. I was enthralled by the people
Okay.
and how cool their jobs were. Yeah.
Okay. So if we were to chat with somebody about the OWAA, and again, if we spell it out, Outdoor Writers Association of America, the OWAA is not just for writers.
Right. Yeah, we have artists, we have videographers, we have podcasters like yourself. We also have PR professionals, authors, we have people that do memoirs, we have amazing photographers that are using different mediums. We have it's just anything that's social media, the social media gurus that's trending right now. We have people from all walks of life. It's very diverse. It's not just writing, for sure.
And I'm very for that because I was introduced to the OWA. I think we're going on 3 years now, and it's like, this is great. And I get
Yeah.
to do what I like to do, which is talk to people and within the outdoor space. And so I've been very fortunate. So thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
cu-
welcome.
So I'm curious now. So you've been with the OWAA for a couple years now. And I know from just listening to folks chat, and I know our executive director, Ches Chezik, has occasionally will highlight that Gulf Shores and Orange Beach tourism has been actively pursuing the OWAA to hold its annual conference in their location. And so this year in September, we're going to be down in Southern Alabama, Gulf Shores, which, by the way, I had an interview prior to this one today with one of the owners of one of the oyster farms down there. And I have to say, and I shared with him, I lived in Alabama for a year. I was from Montgomery. So I had a little bit of credibility. So when I'm talking to Anthony, it was, by the way, it was Anthony Richardone. When I was chatting with them, I shared I have a little credibility here because I've lived in Montgomery. I had never made it down to Gulf Shores, and it was like a couple hours away. So what I'm curious about is we had made the decision to go to the Alabama Gulf Coast and be hosted by Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism. What were the activities that then led up to that great announcement that we are going to select this location? And then you actually spent some time down there. And I'm curious about what those activities were. So maybe you can if you can speak to perhaps both sides of that before the decision and now we're going down there.
Yeah, I know you mentioned Kay in Easton. I met Kay, I believe first time I met her was in I would say I think I met her in Arkansas. I met her in Little Rock, Arkansas, and she is just a hoot. She's just a beautiful person, and now you could tell she loves what she does. She's great with people. She had been pursuing OWAA to come to Gulf Shores for many, many years, and I know she just kept on, and finally our Ches went down there, our staff went down there and had a site visit and said, okay, they were in the running, and then this is on. I actually got to go down to Gulf Shores in October last year. Beautiful. First time. I didn't know Alabama had beaches. For one, you don't hear about that. The beach is pure, like crystal quartz that came from the Appalachian Mountains at the end of the Ice Age and was deposited in the Gulf of Mexico.
Really?
Picking up that sand, it's natural white sand, Howard. It is beautiful. It glistens. You can walk it, and it makes this weird crunching noise in your feet when you're walking. But that to me was like, wow. And there's Gulf State Park right there. We got to ride around bikes. They have an awesome bike share program. Lake Shelby is gorgeous. It's a fresh water lake, which is
Okay.
near the Gulf, which is interesting to me in a geological sense.
Sure.
And yeah, the geology of the place alone is cool, but there's a lot of recreation opportunities. We went to a mariculture center, which is where they have fish hatcheries.
Mhm.
I didn't know they produced shrimp and flounder and spotted trout in tanks and released them into the bay. That was pretty cool. There's a lot of fishing opportunities, and like you said, the oysters. Oysters are huge. I had my first oyster on the seaside of the bay at Admiral Shellfish Company, straight from the sea,
You're kidding me. Your first oyster.
ever
Oh
in my
my.
entire life, and it was very gross. However, it was straight from the sea. The second one, I had a saltine cracker and a tiny bit of seafood sauce,
Okay.
and it was amazing.
So
Yeah.
I know I shared that I wasn't going to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot and you're going to handle this perfectly. Describe what it was like to being handed this oyster. Let's do the second one because the first one is like, you want me to do what?
Yeah.
So get past that one. But what was it like? Describe what it was like to take this oyster and to prepare it and then to eat it.
Well, upon arrival, it was windy. It was actually chilly.
Okay.
And there's these vats, big vats of freshly like harvested oysters right from the sea.
Okay.
And they were cracking them open with these knives. And I believe it was maybe Anthony, one of the people that at the
Okay.
Admiral Shellfish Company. They hand me this oyster
Okay.
and I look at it, and apparently you're supposed to chew it so that you can get the full flavor.
Okay.
So I was just going to suck it down, and then I decided to chew it.
Okay.
So I recorded myself with my cell phone. I bit into it. It was like crunchy, salty, and I made the most horrendous face, Howard, that I have on the video. Oh, but I did it. I was brave, and that's not a common thing to just grab it from the sea without preparation. But
Okay.
I wanted the authentic oyster experience in Gulf Shores.
Okay. Now, when you got to, was there a third oyster or a fourth oyster?
I believe there was 2,
Okay.
and I did have a couple at a restaurant
Okay.
prior to departing Gulf Shores.
Okay. So you had the fresh oyster. Any other ways that you had it prepared?
Ooh, I believe we had some steamed ones that were pretty good. And
Okay.
then Kay and I went, oh, I wish I could remember the place. She's going to kill me. Kay
Okay.
and I went right before I went off the plane. We had some that had like barbecue, some Parmesan. Oh, and those were pretty good.
Okay. We'll
Yeah.
get the name and the email
Yes.
address from
Yes.
Kay, and we'll
Yes.
have that in the show notes. Okay. So how many to go down there and, for this preparation, what other activities were you involved with while you were down there to kind of lay the groundwork for what folks like myself, other members are going to see and experience once they get down there in September for the conference?
Oh, yes. So we went to Gulf State Park. There's a little office there. We got to learn a lot about the sea turtle conservation they do, where you can help release sea turtles or help go on patrols. They weren't doing anything at that time, but that was on my list to do and hoping I can get there. There is, like I said, we did the biking. There's a sustainability tour that you can take at the Interpretive Center. Pretty cool. The bike share program was awesome. You can get a bike for free for a couple hours and ride around the park. And you can look at all of the beautiful beaches. I mean, the beaches alone were phenomenal. One thing too, Howard, just if you go just outside of Gulf Shores, there's a lot of different things to do if you want to hit the beach. One thing we went to was the Weeks Bay Pitcher Plant Bog,
Okay.
which is a it's a plant that's like the Venus flytrap.
Okay.
And it thrives in this specific ecosystem and it eats the bugs, but it's one of the rare ecosystems around and it's not too far from Gulf Shores. So we got to see that. And then we also visited, they had some animals at I can't remember what the place is though. Oh no, I'm on the spot.
We'll get
Uh,
it.
but we got to see some rescued owls. That
Okay.
was pretty interesting.
Oh,
They had a bird banding event while we were there, and you can look online to see when that bird banding event is going to be held again. We got to hold and release some of the birds and
wow.
look at that. Yeah, and then the hatchery was amazing. We got to visit the hatchery, and they do offer tours. You can go see the hatchery, take a tour, and then, yeah, it's really it's whatever you're into. There's something for you.
Okay. Well, and Anthony did offer, he made sure, Howard, when you come down here, we're going to take you out. So
Yeah.
it was funny. One of I think of it as kind of an inside joke for myself because here I am interviewing these outdoor enthusiasts, they're writers, they're producers, etc. And especially like Anitra Hamper, who's this big game fisher phenomena angler. And I've never been fishing in my life, so I've made it my decision. I'm going to learn how to fish, or be exposed to learning how to fish when I go down to Alabama this coming fall. So I'm curious, of all these activities that you just shared, and by the way, we haven't chatted about that much about food yet, but I do want to talk about that. But I digress. What are some of the output that you would see members of the OWAA producing as a result of coming to this conference and having these many experiences that you just shared with us?
Yeah, one of the things that's really encouraged is pre and post tours or connecting with the tour, Gulf Shores, Orange Beach tourism beforehand to set up something to do. When you're in conference, you're networking, you know how busy it can be. So
Right.
that time prior and post is so important if you want to make money and get story content. So I would say anything that you're into, from if you're into the conservation, get an appointment with the sea turtle conservation organization. If you're into sea kayaking, schedule a sea kayaking tour, maybe fish from a sea kayak. There's dinner cruises. There's all kinds of different hikes that you can do. There's, like I said, the bike tour. You can do birding. Birding is huge in Gulf Shores. It's such a menagerie of different species that you can see. So I would say for an outdoor communicator, go with what you're passionate about and just research, and you will find something for you. For
Okay.
sure. Like, maybe it's something you wanna do parasailing. That's such an interesting recreational thing that maybe not everyone has access to, or, it's just whatever your interests are. You can take a sandcastle creation course on the beach.
Oh, wow.
So there's unique opportunities like that
Okay.
you can do. Just it depends on what you're interested in. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be, but let me ask this question anyways. What was your standout moment as you got down there? And obviously, Kay is he's in the consummate ambassadors for this region, but and you, I'm sure Kay said, "Here, you got to try this," which was one oyster with the barbecue sauce. But what was your standout moment personally? Like, oh wow, I cannot believe I'm here, seeing, doing, participating in this activity.
Definitely the Admiral Shellfish Company tour. They
Okay.
have the site visit
Mhm.
to see the oyster farming process. You think, okay, it's aquaculture is what the fancy word is, and it's basically if you're, shellfish, or you're harvesting things that you've farmed. But see, like, being on the coast and seeing the passion that these farmers have and the sustainability that goes into. But, when Anthony walked out into the water and he's farming, they have these like big rectangle bats of these oysters that they flip
Right,
back and forth to get the shell just perfect for these chefs.
right.
They've perfected it. They have their own system. Seeing that lifestyle, Anthony takes his boat across the water from his house and he commutes to work by boat.
Oh, wow, he
It
didn't
was
say
so
that during that
Oh, yeah,
interview.
it was so, and I was like, "What?" It's more economical, and it's just a great thing to do. And his wife was there, and I got to hear their backstory and their passion about just the oyster farming was so cool. And of course, feeling the texture of it and seeing, but like again, behind the scenes is so cool to me. And tasting that oyster it's just a standout moment for me. I'll never forget that. So I would recommend that tour. I would do it again. I have so many more questions for them.
I am so there. Let me tell you, we'll do it I'll be with you there. I'll be with you
Yeah,
there.
I'm actually hoping that I'm pitching the cover of our next issue of Outdoors Unlimited with Anthony's picture as he's rising these bats out of the vats or bats, whatever they're called, these vats of oysters. and like coming, walking out of the water, and he's in this black wetsuit, just drenched, but he's loving every minute of it. It was cool.
Oh, wow. One thing I've learned is I needed to plan more time before the event and then after the event because in Jay Peak, Vermont, I got in the day before, I left the day after. At least up in Casper this past May, I stayed an extra day and I went on the Oregon Trail, but I'm definitely going to take advantage before and the after. Coming off of this tour, and you're down there, you're this is a working tour for you. What did you produce either for yourself or on behalf of the OWAA that, whether our membership or listeners, readers will want to know more about? What did you produce?
I have a lot in the works. We have,
Okay.
I've produced for the organization. I had a blog post on sustainability leads for stories. I also produced an internal communication about food because I'm a foodie.
Okay.
It's some of my favorite foods that I got to experience while I was there. I'm working on another 2-page spread now,
Yeah.
which will have some amazing story leads and some stories in our spring 2023 issue leading up to conference.
Okay.
And I'll be working on some social media content. But I did some personal things on my TikTok while I was there.
Okay.
That was sort of fun. I'm very new to the TikTok environment. I'm a little bit older and I'm just jumping on the trend. And I used my trip to experiment with the medium, and the Admiral Shellfish Company TikTok did okay. I think it had like 300 to 500 views, which I was happy with. Maybe it's up to 800 now. And I actually showed visiting an oyster farm. So that was really cool as a side perk. And some of those little video clips will be weaved in as we go to promote the conference.
Okay. I just cannot get my head around TikTok. I learned it and a little more about it up in Casper, but I can't wait to see what you produce. I may have to sign up for TikTok just to see what you produce.
Yeah, I think I put that one on Instagram as a reel as well and tag the
Okay.
Admiral Shellfish Company. So I'll send you that link, Howard.
I would love that. Thank you. Now, let's chat about something that is near and dear to my heart. And I know now it's near and dear to your heart. Starts with an F and ends with a D. It's called food. Let's talk about the food in Southern Alabama. What was that experience like?
Well, I have to say, living in Montana, Western rural Montana, I do not get my share of seafood. So when I had the opportunity to go on the trip, that was one thing I was going to experience all the seafood I could, and we did. The coconut shrimp at DeSoto's
Uh,
food kitchen. It was so good, and I actually tried grouper for the first time.
okay.
It was really good. It was a fresh grouper from that day that was caught in the sea. And then an odd thing that I didn't expect to like was the perch at Gulf Shores has these fried goat cheese appetizers.
Oh, wow.
I tell you, Howard, when I bit into it's like it's a little bit bigger than a hush puppy and breaded and fried, but whatever they mix in with that goat cheese, and I
Yeah.
hope they still have it on, but I went back and had that a couple times, even on my own outside of all the other meals. So I definitely was enjoying that.
Oh, wow. You're speaking my language. I mean, coconut shrimp. I've only place I think I've ever had grouper. I'd stuffed grouper when I was scuba diving down in the Keys many years ago, and the hush puppies sound good. I have a feeling I'm going to be gaining weight when I go down there.
Oh yeah, I had to do a lot of hill climbs and some jogging when I returned from my trip.
Yeah, I think I may need to get a little better shape before this trip, just so I
Yeah.
can handle it all. Any other explorations that you did while you were down there? Were you confined? Did you stay pretty much within the Gulf Shores area, or did you travel to other areas within the state of Alabama while you were there?
I primarily stayed around the Gulf Shores area, and the only time we traveled is Kay and I went to the Weeks Bay Pitcher Plant Bog. That's a mouthful to say. To because I was being my nerdy, sciencey background, I really wanted to see these Venus flytrap type plants. So I think that was like 45-minute drive outside. But other than that, we stayed primarily at the hotel. I explored that area. We went out to the hatchery. I don't remember exactly where that hatchery was, but that I think the furthest place that we went was the fish hatchery.
Okay.
And that was, I believe that was the Alabama, let me see, Department of, oh my goodness, I have it written down. Okay, the Alabama Department of Conservation at the Mariculture Center.
Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, yeah, we did the bird banding. That was awesome. We did the hatchery visit, which was very cool. We did the interpretive center visit. We went to see the rescued animals
Okay.
and
Very
yeah,
good.
took tours. Yep.
Like, well, a little envy going on because what a fantastic job. And just to be able to visit these wonderful places and you're a little bit on uh, you're getting the best of everything. I mean, folks like Kay and the Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism, and they're making sure you've got the best connections to the food, the sites, the meeting the right people, and being able to help plan this event. But just to be able to do it and see these wonderful places, and being this farm girl from Indiana, going to the mountains of Western Montana, now you get to have oysters for the first time in Gulf Shores. That's what a great experience that must have been.
Well, it was full circle.
I love it. I love it. Listen, before we go, I'd like to maybe circle back to a little bit about your journey and the impact your career and professional trajectory has taken you. As you look back, is there like an aha moment for you when it comes to, wow, I get to do what I do and the impact this moment has either for yourself or with your husband, family members? What's your aha moment?
My aha moment, Howard, would have to be when we were traveling to visit Yellowstone National Park with my in-laws, and my father-in-law had open heart surgery.
Mm,
He was recovering from that, wanted to go see Yellowstone National Park. We got to the park, and unbeknownst to us, the park was not open yet. It was opening the Friday or Saturday, so we had a couple days in the park, and hit my father-in-law, Jack said, "I really wanna go see the park. We're right here. We're in arm's length away." And so we talked to some locals and they said, "Well, you can rent a bike and bike in the park."
oh, really?
And yeah, and he was very adamant to rent a bike because of his current situation. He was
Right.
getting healthier, but he wasn't there yet. And so he was, I think, in his late 60s at the time. And we all 4 of us, me, my husband, my mother-in-law, father-in-law, we rented bikes. They were kind of fancy. It took us a while to figure out how to use them.
Yeah,
And we biked into the park and riding that bike alongside my father-in-law and just seeing the joy, seeing him experience the nature, the beautiful landscape at Yellowstone. That to me is what it's all about, is getting people outside, getting people introduced to the outdoors, to that feeling. Like if I could bottle up that feeling of riding a bike in Yellowstone with that nice breeze going down the hill, seeing the land, like it was so amazing to see him, how far he had come in his journey and the smile on his face. Like, he was like a little kid again. It was so cool. And that's
very
what the
nice.
outdoors does. Like, it makes you feel like a little kid again. It's so joyful to be outside.
Very nice. And thank you for gifting that to us. That's a wonderful aha moment. And I can imagine just the joy that he have felt and just being able to know I've always wanted to do this and now I get to do it. Maybe we shift gears just a little bit. Again, your journey from a farm girl in Indiana to doing these wonderful trips to places like Gulf Shores. For others that maybe haven't started on their own journey and there's no right moment, you just have to do it. But what kind of insight would you leave for folks that are really they're not ready to head out of town, so to speak, and to experience? Maybe they're a little bit afraid, or they just afraid to ask for help or ask the right questions. What advice would you give to them?
I would say move out of your comfort zone. To grow is to feel uncomfortable. And as adults, we can often stop learning or even trying new things. But most importantly, Howard, start where you are. If you're into helping others or if you're into making an impact in the environment, maybe there's a local place that plants trees and you can go along and plant trees. Or if you want to get into photography, go somewhere local, find out about something interesting that's happening in the outdoors and go try your hand at photography. I'm still learning my craft as well. And I would say start where you are, do what you can, and you need to be a little bit scared sometimes before you do something.
I
It helps
love
you
that.
grow. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Before we head out, again, we're going to share the media piece, the blog that you have on the OWAA site. If our listeners would like to learn more about you or the OWAA, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, just the website owaa.org would be the best place to learn.
Okay.
Yeah, we also
And
have a Facebook presence and an Instagram as well that is active more so during conference time.
right. Very good. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat about your adventure down in Gulf Shores. And really, I'm excited to be supporting Gulf Shores and Orange Beach tourism and creating this podcast series as we kind of head into the event. And really, it's been great to finally get you on the show, because I remember asking you once before, and it's like, Howard, I don't have anything. Well, yes, you do. You've always had it. And now you're here chatting with us today about it. So thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right. So listen, stay on the line. We're going to do a quick close and you and I can have a final chat. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Okay, folks, we have just been chatting with Suzanne Downing, the publications editor for the Outdoor Writers Association of America, or as we like to say, the OWAA. Suzanne was down in Gulf Shores, Alabama, working to help our upcoming annual conference, which is going to be in September. And I think she gifted us with a lot of great information about not only what myself and fellow members could expect, but I hope has given you some insight into reasons why you definitely want to go down to Gulf Shores and experience these wonderful beaches, the great food, and also the great attractions where you can learn more about just the area and the culture. Now, if you're interested in the OWAA, you can visit their website at owaa.org. You can also visit us on the Outdoor Adventure Series at outdooradventureseries.com. We also have a presence on LinkedIn and Facebook, as well as any of the podcast directories. Just do a search for Outdoor Adventure Series. And we want to thank the Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism for sponsoring this episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series and introducing us to Suzanne, the publications editor for the OWAA. And to begin planning your beach vacation, getaway, or outing, visit the Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism website at gulfshores.com. Okay, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day, and we will see you on a future episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series. Take care now.